I speak with a sense of responsibility. In 2011, Lai Mohammed is part of APC. 2011, our dear president, and I respect the institution of the presidency, and I respect the person of the president, they didn't behave properly. The dogs and baboons were caught up in blood. Hundreds of core members, youth corpers, young, vibrant boys and girls serving this country were cut down in the prime of their life. Thousands of houses were razed across the north because they felt injured by the result of that 2011 election. And millions poured out in the street. Atiku hasn't done so, and neither has Obi done so.
Hi guys, it don't read is only truth that will set us free in this country. Professor Udenta has come out to remind Lai Mohammed what they did to Nigerians in 2011/2015 when they were trying to take power from PDP. Peter Obi and Datti Labour Party has not even done anything. They are accusing them for entering government and treason just because they are fighting to take back their mandate. Guys, the truth must be told.
How alive would you say Nigerian politics is right now? I mean, you've got the world waiting to hear from the judiciary and hoping that the judges will deliver justice. We've got the country on tenterhooks amid accusations of treason and religious and ethnic incitement, threats of arrest, etc. Is this a momentous political moment for Nigeria?
A momentous political moment means that our democratic practice is alive. I don't know whether it is healthy, because to live doesn't mean to be in a healthy form. You talked about momentous events, you talked about narratives and counter-narrative, protests and counter-protests, accusations and counter-accusations. These are signs of the vibrancy of a tradition. But whether it is signs of a vibrant decay of that tradition, or even vibrant decomposition of the post-colony, only time will tell. What I can say for sure is that there's always a noted tension between constitutional governance and democratic practice. What do I mean by this? The Constitution is a text that guides virtually everything we do in an organized system like ours. The practice is what we derive from the text. The first arm is the assembly, the parliament that makes the law. The second is the executive that implements, and the judiciary that adjudicates, and then civil society, the media, and the rest of us that actually live our life in a democratic system. When the life we lead conflicts with the constitutional provisions, tension is noted. For example, what do I mean? If an election is organized in a fraudulent manner and result declared not in concert with the expectations of the people, there is a wide gulf between constitutional order and practice. This is what happened with the Arab Spring. Virtually all the countries of the Arab Spring had constitutions, had parliament, that make laws. But when there is a gulf between the laws you make and the way the laws are implemented, and that gulf becomes wide by the day, people could decide to seek self-help. We wish that this democratic process does not end up at the level of self-help. For now, the key gladiators have been measured and restrained, those who feel hurt and injured by the result INEC declared after the 25th February presidential election. Atiku Abubakar of PDP is well restrained. He's gone to court. His deputy, Governor Kowa, is well restrained. He's gone to court. Peter Obi is well restrained. With that, Ahmed, well restrained. In spite of that, is very tough words. That's why they're seeking the judicial process for adjudication. So for anybody, either in government or out of government, to talk about fascism or fascistic behavior or insurrectional behavior or treasonable behavior is sorely unbecoming and completely irresponsible at this stage. The country is hurting and people are hurting. What they need is an assurance from the powers that be, the government of the day, that justice will be secured. That's why the courts are there. What they need from INEC is to pick itself up from the tattered dignity, of its broken life, and they begin to think about what could have happened if we had done things in a different form. When you cast aspersions on people, you do not know the consequences of those aspersions they cast on them. I speak with a sense of responsibility. In 2011, Lai Mohammed is part of APC. 2011, our dear president, and I respect the institution of the presidency, and I respect the person of the president, they didn't behave properly. The dogs and baboons were caught up in blood. Hundreds of core members, youth corpers, young, vibrant boys and girls serving this country were cut down in the prime of their life. Thousands of houses were razed across the north because they felt injured by the result of that 2011 election. And millions poured out in the street. Atiku hasn't done so, and neither has Obi done so. So for a government functionary like Lai Mohammed to speak about treason in faraway America is irresponsible. And for Revered Wole Soyinka, the Nobel laureate, we all respect him as a sage, as Kongi, to descend into the fray, having lost his moral compass in this particular circumstance, is equally very shocking for people like us who hold him in high esteem. So as we await the adjudicatory processes unleashed by the judiciary from the tribunal to the Supreme Court, the debate must be robust. The engagement must be keen. Look at Paris. That's the doyen of European civilization. For months caught up in only cycles of violence and petitions and protests and marches. That's the beauty of democracy. You can't shut down conversation. You can't tell Atiku not to litigate or not to ask his supporters to protest peacefully.
Absolutely. The Labour Party, though, suggests that all these apparent threats are aimed at trying to focus attention away from the strength of their legal challenge against the president-elect. I wonder what your assessment is of how strong a case they've got and also that the PDP have.
I'm not a lawyer. Let me deposit that right up front. But I'm a thinking being. That's a sense of having been in school and having read well to the degree that no human being can bamboozle me with thoughts and opinions. So I know my way around the system. Atiku Abubakar's case, I have the document. P2B's case, I have the document. But I carefully put out documents by well-selected legal minds. The two things that stand out on both documents from the PDP and the Labour Party is the depth of the data harnessed, the degree of the technical details devoted in mounting a robust legal challenge, and the mounting of evidence that we cumulatively, I believe, persuade the justices at the end of the day that the right thing must be done. What is the moral dimension of this catastrophe that befell the country in the form of this last presidential election? The moral contours of the nation is under threat, and Labour captured it well with the case of the president-elect in faraway America on drug-related matters. That has further been mainstreamed in the judicial conversation, no longer as a tangential or peripheral element to be dismissed outrightly by media guys or strategic communications of that formation. But now the judges will litigate at the lower level, and the Supreme Court justices will litigate this matter. The foundations of the moral order, together with the powerful, data-driven position which the PDP, Atiku, together constructed, may well drive this into a conclusion beyond what I can speculate now. But that is strong enough. And for me, if the Bola Tinubu wing and the government of the day supporting it understand the robustness of this challenge, they should better focus their energy on it. If they try to throw shade at people in terms of banning very strong works from the DSS about people trying to form interim government, issue of treason, issue of insurrection. Unpack these three elements. Interim government is an arrangement only the government of the day can arrange. The government of Muhammad Buhari, in concert with the military, have the capacity to arrange an interim government scenario or infrastructure. Nobody in the street can do it. With your brooms, or your cornmeals, or your banner, or your t-shirts, or flyers, you decide on interim government. It's only the government that can. And treason is a potent word they don't wave around. If somebody is accused of treason, you must pick the person up and begin to interrogate to find out the conspirators, co-conspirators of that treasonable something. That people walk around free because they're Democrats who have persuaded themselves that they have to go through the judicial apparatus to seek for redress, and yet as a minister you're banning West treason and insurrection. That is meaningless.
Now let's turn to the elections tribunal and the legal challenges. You touched on it briefly that are coming up. I mean, some very well respected lawyers, and no less a person that the former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Olisa Abakoba, senior advocate of Nigeria, have urged the tribunal to try and conclude the petitions against Bola Tinubu's victory before the swearing in of a new president on May the 29th, given how politically charged things are currently in Nigeria. Do you agree that the hearings should be accelerated? Because part of the reason why all these agitations are going on is simply, as Olisa pointed out, because the issue of the presidential election remains unresolved.
Okay, the issues are very much unresolved, up in the air. Indo Anek has spoken, and he's been derided for speaking the way Mani did. Look at this basic issue of the contradiction of the INEC apparatus, the chairman and the spokespersons. They're talking about the glitches and the difficulty they have to upload this result, which means in spite of their best effort, a transcendent moment occurred, something beyond their control. And then Lai Mohammed, as if he's the chairman of INEC, with information the rest of us do not have. Oh no, it was a deliberate intentional act to pause it in order to avoid the back end or the backbone infrastructure being compromised by hackers. That is very alarming, to say the least. That is number one. If INEC knows what is before Nigeria and the rest of the world over this particular matter, INEC should be well bordered, comprehensively, the way and manner you put it out there. The legal challenges are constrained by constitutional provisions and enactments of the Electoral Act. I wish to align myself providentially and theoretically with the position for this Abakaba, my good friend. But I do understand the nuances and the dynamics of this kind of power play. I think we do everything humanly possible to drag this matter out. And APC will probably do the same. For the sanity of the democratic order, in order to avoid this tension between constitutional governance and democratic practice, that's the best route to go. But nobody's going to prescribe that for the judiciary. No matter how best they try to rush this case in order to accelerate the hearings, they could tell you that it's better to have a judgment that is well delivered in whatever time than to rush the extent and then have a miscarriage.
Yeah.
So even that happens, what I can counsel Nigerians, including those who are mortally and bitterly wounded, on this studio I talked about the catastrophe or the embarrassment to the nation if APC and Tinubu, they do well. And apparently from what I said, they do well. You can see that sense of embarrassment unfolding every day. This is the most dramatic of the moments for us. And a lot of people, including the Sabagaba, feel that this thing could push this country to the precipice. And the post-colonial could become institutionally and structurally decomposing. But my counsel to Nigerians, it may not be the best advice out there, is May 29 will come, even if the cases are not concluded. A president-elect will be sworn in. That's what the law says.
Yeah.
But then it continues. And then protest marches, robust petition, canvassing positions, as well as the legal processes going on must continue at pace.
Well, the argument that Olisa makes, given his own legal experience, which is extensive, is that he reckons that at least 3 issues can be quickly resolved. One is the issue of 25% of the Federal Capital Territory and its relevance to who becomes president. The other is whether a candidate is permitted to stand as a presidential or vice presidential candidate in an election when he is at the same time a senatorial candidate. And the third issue is related to the qualification of candidates to contest in a presidential election. He reckons these can be resolved within 7 days because they are simply straightforward matters of law. I mean, I'm wondering whether you think he has a point, because as he said, there is a certain unfairness about a petitioner challenging a president-elect who then, whilst the challenge is unresolved, goes on to get inaugurated.
Brilliant position of law and process. And I said I align myself fully with it, and many other commentators who have shared this view. There are others who have shared this view, in a different kind of format and different kind of sense of perspective. His own is the 3 brilliant elements which he tied together in a whole, in almost a logical flow. I align myself completely with it. My worry, and the worry of any student of Nigerian history and any realist, is as compelling as these views are, in order to salvage whatever will have the dignity of the nation and the sovereignty of the people already lost, according to them. With the judges, this now at the lower level, do the needful. But the problem, I don't know whether we'll decide, tax him on what kind of space he's looking at, the tribunal space and then the Supreme Court space. Assuming the tribunal in less than 2 months weighs on this matter, even in a week or 2 weeks, weighs on this matter and say conclusively, 25% we include the FCT, period. 2, he cannot be a nominee of the party senatorial and be the nominee for vice president, period. 3, there are many impediments to being a candidate, and we take 1 or 2 or 3 and say you are ahead, ensnared by those impediments. Can't even start as a candidate. They have a right to go to court, to the next level, appeal to the Supreme Court.
They do, yeah.
Supreme Court may not rush their matter as the Court of Appeal. And if the matter is not rushed and we say get beyond the 29th of May, the person pronounced by INEC as the president-elect, we say have to be sworn in.
No, I agree with that.
Like closure.
No, absolutely.
I don't know whether you pressed him on that.
I think you're very right. I think his argument is not so much that you could, I mean, you won't stop the process unless there is an absolute, final, conclusive judgment from the Supreme Court. But what he's saying is that it reduces, first of all, the tension in society. Because now you're making decisions on certain things.
And clearing those out of the way.
And then you leave the other issues, bigger issues, which could go on and on.
I understand
but
that.
It kind of levels the playing field a little bit.
It does that, and I'm sure the most...
And either gives confidence or takes away confidence.
The most important lesson...
this could be upturned or not.
The most important lesson, Charles, we learn from this is we still have to tinker with either the constitutional parameters or in terms of time frame or even the electoral act specifying. If we parties did primaries in May, the previous year, and swearing it will occur May the next year, that's 12 calendar months. You could have a situation where primaries are done in May, concluded by early June, as we had in this instance, and elections could be held in October. If what is election to come, you have a sufficient 4 or 5 months threshold to complete even the Supreme Court adjudication before the May 29 swearing in. This is a harsh lesson. We never had an election as bitterly contested as this one. We had an election where the issues of insurrection and treason are thrown up casually. We have seen a situation where a Nobel laureate, all of us virtually deify beyond canonization, begins to now have a cloud of doubt before him, losing a moral compass and talking about fascism. That's the most individualistic human being I've ever seen in my life in terms of individuality of the human subject. Shoike is not bound to anything in terms of guided by individuals or spirits. He's his own being, his own entity, ontologically speaking. For him now to descend into the arena, not make comments that are worthy of him before the election, with ethnic profiling, with violence in Lagos, and suddenly way to this matter. Many stakeholders have said, is that the Wole Soyinka we know?
Well, in fairness to him, he did condemn the issue of ethnicity and all the rest of it.
That was almost casual, almost like a parenthetical construction in terms of narrative. That's a different matter altogether. Let me not be too harsh on our mentor. Somebody brought us up in the field of literature, will let you know, Chape. Focus on those in government. Focus on Lai Mohammed. Focus on the campaigning frustration of Bola Tinubu. Focus on the people who speak for him, who write to NBC, who ask journalists to be sanctioned when they've not even taken power. Nigerians should be alarmed about what is coming before them. That's the real fascism Soyinka should be talking about. A fascism of a president-elect whose own strategic communication team is choking down the life of the media. It's actually telling them to be prepared for having a rough rider, but even never gave them. He treated the media women with contempt and he snubbed them. Okay, that's fine. He didn't care, he didn't bother. These ones are telling you, we're going to match you every inch. The space you've created for yourself in the past 8 years, we're going to shrink it.
Well, listening to you talk, I'm quaking in my boots at the moment.
It's messy.
No, it's not funny.
It's not funny.
We'll have to see how it unfolds, because obviously there are constitutional limits to what can be done and what can't be done. But